Transferral by Kate Blair, Chapter 3. Sharp Studios, Horsefly Road, London, 21 days left. She can do her makeup herself, Pierce says. The girl stops, brush poised over my face. I watch the two of them reflected in the brightly lit mirror backstage at Sharp Studio. The lights in the studio, she starts to say. We'll wash her out, Pierce interrupted. She knows. She will apply more than usual. It's not rocket science. The makeup girl looks like a deer caught in the headlights. The brush is still inches from my cheek, laden with pink powder. Why don't you take a break? I'm sure you've been working hard. Pierce puts a hand on her back and turns her towards the door, the blusher brush still in her hand. He follows, leaning on his walking stick. As soon as she's through the door, he closes it gently. What is that about? I asked. We need some time to talk, Pierce said, limping back over. And she's used to doing makeup for tardy celebrities. You need a more natural look. You can do that, right? With the array of brushes and colors in front of me, that shouldn't be a problem. I pick up a tube of the foundation closest to my skin tone and try it on the back of my hand. What do you want to talk about? What you're going to say in the interview. Piers leans on the back of the chair. Normally, I'd have given you some proper media training, but we didn't have the time. The shade is a match. I dab it under my eyes and on my chin and nose, then blend it with a sponge. I know what to say. Dad and I have been playing interview for years. The government is a bunch of crooks, and Sebastian Conway and the Democratic Justice Party will go easy on criminals and reintroduce vaccines. Who wants them sticking needles into the arms of children and babies? Piers pats my shoulder. Those are all great points, but there's a special message you need to convey to the public, and only you can do it. That's when the door bursts open. The two of us turn as Allison rushes in, breathless. Great. Who invited her? I'm sorry I'm late, she puffs. Late? Pierce said. I thought you were in meetings with Malcolm. He sent me, she says. He wanted me to make sure Talia is comfortable with all this. I pick up the powder brush and sweep it across my cheek. I'm fine. Good, Allison says. Pierce turns back on her to meet my eyes in the mirror again. Have you seen the CCTV footage? I nod. He had sent it to me earlier. It's terrible resolution, but I do look good in it. Sadly, the girl isn't much more than a grainy black and white figure, her back to the cameras. Excellent, he says. I was a little worried that it might upset you. We don't want anything upsetting you, Allison chips in. I'm fine, I say. She's not a child, Pierce says. I scan the colors in front of me, select a natural shade of brown for my eyeshadow. I don't want to go too celebrity with the colors. Pierce bends down closer to my ear and speaks in a low voice. We need to address the Rebecca issue. Allison leans in to eavesdrop. Malcolm wants to avoid that. I fill in the crease of my eyelid and address Pierce. What Rebecca issue? The public knows you as a survival of a double murder. They see you, they think of your sister and your mother. You saved a girl Rebecca's age. Sharp will want to talk about that. That didn't occur to me. What should I do? Play it up, Pierce said. It generates sympathy. Reminds people that Sebastian Conway wants to go easy on criminals, putting us all in that kind of danger you faced. This isn't about manipulating voters, Allison said. This is real. I put down my makeup brush. I said I'm fine, like a billion times. Treat me like an adult. Allison, just because you and Malcolm... Pierce stops. Allison's face is red. My stomach lurches. What? Pierce shakes his head. Just don't think that you know him best, Allison, is all I'm saying. I breathe in deeply through my nose. He can't mean. Dad isn't like that. And Allison is like 20 years younger than him. I remember the outfit that she was wearing 2 days in a row over at our flat. The interview should be a cakewalk, Pierce said. Marcus Sharp is getting too old for celebrity interviews and wants to move into politics. We'd offered him an exclusive with your father the night before the election if your interview goes well. So we're expecting easy questions. I'm glad of the change of subject. Of course, Dad arranged this. He's protecting me. He always does. I swallow and try to push the thought of Allison out of my head. So, what's the special message you need me to deliver? Do you have something for me to memorize? I've seen them training Dad on talking points. It's pretty straightforward. You practice until it sounds natural. Special message? Allison asks. Pierce sighs. I probably shouldn't have said that in front of Allison. I can't write it down for you, Pierce says as I pick up the blusher brush and select a subtle pink. But our polling has shown that our people see your father as too harsh, unsympathetic to the underprivileged. Allison jumps in again. But they think he's trustworthy, she says. They believe he'll do what he says. I don't want to hear her talking about my dad right now. I grab a lipstick brush and jab it into a healthy reddish tone. Pierce continues. They think he's cold and distant. But you're in a unique position to counterbalance that. I laugh. Cold and distant? Dad? We need you to talk about your father's support after the attack, his visits to the hospital, when you were there for so long. I know it was hard for you. Pierce pauses, and I wonder if he's thinking about his own time in the hospital. He was there for 3 months. That's why he needs a walking stick. He was beaten and left for dead by some thug who wanted his wallet. The attacker was sentenced to tuberculosis, but turned out that he had a natural immunity and was out of quarantine in 2 weeks. Pierce shakes his head, continues. Personal stories make him seem warmer, more like the dad you know. Can you do that? I pause in outlining my lips and meet Pierre's eyes. This isn't just how I should play the interview. This is how I can make myself indispensable to the campaign, get them to take me on the road after Parliament is dissolved. I'm the only person who can let the voters know what my dad is like. That's a lot of responsibility, but an opportunity too. No problem, I say. Pierce squeezes my shoulder encouragingly. You're brilliant, Talia. Now, get out there and change the world. I'll do my best. Allison and Pierce offer to wait with me in the wings of the Sharp studio. But I don't want Allison around right now, so I tell them I'll be fine. Standing alone, the weight of the interview settles on my shoulders. This could be the key to the campaign, and it's all up to me. I'd be more comfortable with some kind of practice script to rely on. And I can't get Allison out of my head. Gross thoughts seep in as I try to focus on the show. I'm the last guest, and Marcus has been building up to my interview for half an hour, teasing the viewers and hints about an exclusive CCTV footage. Finally, the floor manager leads me to the edge of the set, and I have a moment to take in the scene. The audience is barely visible behind the blinding lights, but I can make out several rows of seats in a semicircle around the stage, like an amphitheater. Marcus is standing in the middle of the studio floor. I can't make out what he's saying until his voice goes up triumphantly at the end. Ladies and gentlemen, Talia Hale! He points towards the wings right at me. I pause for too long, so the floor manager gives me a little push. A whooping, thumping wall of sound rolls in from the audience. Squinting past the lights, I can see that they're on their feet. People are whistling and clapping their hands above their heads. I push my shoulders back and suck in my stomach as I walk in, smiling at the cameras. Marcus strides over to greet me. He takes my hand in both of his and shakes it, then gestures to one of the two gray chairs at the heart of the lights, the cameras, the action. I thank him and lower myself into it, smoothing down my red cashmere dress. I wish I'd worn something lighter. It's hot under these lights. Marcus tries to speak a couple of times, but has to wait for the audience cheers to fade before he can make himself be heard. It's a little overwhelming. I guess they read the papers, and it's nice, but I'm not sure what I'm supposed to do while they cheer. My chair is angled slightly towards the cameras and the audience beyond. Time stretches out as I clutch my hands together in my lap. They like you, Marcus says, gesturing to the crowds. This gets them going again. And Marcus laughs, showing his famous white teeth. We wait until the applause dies down enough for the interview to begin properly. So, Talia, what's it like being the daughter of a potential prime minister? It's it's nice, I stutter. Oh, great start, Talia. Nice? In what way? He's nice. He's a good dad. I can hear the words coming out of my mouth, but for some reason I can't stop them or change them to something less moronic. I try to focus on what Piers told me to say, what only I can say. I swallowed and tried again. He's always there for me, especially 4 years ago after the attack. He came to visit me at the hospital every day. Marcus is silent, so I continue. My voice grows stronger. He's got a great sense of humor. Marcus's eyebrows rise. I turn to the cameras and speak right at them. You wouldn't know it to see him on TV, but he does. I could barely move after the attack, but he'd squish up next to me on the hospital bed, his arms warm around me, his beard tickling the top of my head, and we'd watch DVDs. I'd swallow. It's still painful to remember those days. He'd watch my favorites 10 times over and never complain. Sometimes, afterwards, he'd stick his sock on his hands like this. I demonstrate pinching my fingers and my thumb, making a mouth, and reenact the best parts in the funny voices with his sock puppets. Laughter flows from the audience. I bet they never imagined him doing that. This is what Piers wanted, a new, friendly view of my father, even if it makes him seem a bit childish. He'd spend every moment he wasn't in the Commons with me. He was so tired all the time because of it. I swallow. My mouth is dry, but Marcus smiles encouragingly. One day, he dozed off in a committee meeting. The House secretary woke him by poking him in the arm with her pen. She broke the skin. Dad has a permanent blue spot on his arm now, a tattoo. You should ask to see it. A wave of laughter rolls in from the audience, matched by Marcus's loud guffaw. It's a bit too loud, to be honest. He must be desperate for that pre-election interview with Dad. And it's good to see that you are just as committed to your father's tough on crime agenda, Talia, Marcus says. In a more practical way, he turns to the audience. Shall I show you our exclusive CCTV footage? The cheers are so loud, Marcus pretends they pushed him backwards. He holds his hand up, a fake shield. Okay. Roll the video. The lights in the studio dim. The back wall lights up as they run the footage. It's only slightly better than it was on my computer. You still can't tell what the girl looks like, but I hardly hesitate before I rush in to save her. The lights go up, and I'm still blinking when the cheering starts. They put a freeze frame of me with the chair about to hit the man as he advances on the girl, cleaver clutched in his hands. Only the side of his face is visible. Sorry, only the side of my face is visible. But I look way calmer than I felt at the time. I look determined and strong. That, to me, is what true bravery looks like. What were you thinking? Wow, he's sucking up a bit too much now.